Hey guys, this is Amber Rain Davis, and I am a new member of the WOW creative team, and specifically for the video design team. So you'll be seeing a lot of me over the next year. And today I'm going to share a technique to emboss in Copic color on vellum. We're going to be using the Gray Muse Happiness Blooms stamp set, which is just gorgeous. We're going to use two WOW embossing powders, the Earthtone Pepper and Angel Eyes, which is part of the Ferry Man trio. Here are the Copic colors I'm going to use if you want to pause this to jot them down, but I encourage you to use whatever your favorite color palette is. So I have the WOW clear ultra slow drying embossing pad here. This is just a clear sticky ink that dries very slowly so that you don't have to rush to get your embossing powders on. So I'm stamping this on a lightweight vellum. This is actually a 27-pound vellum versus your heavyweight 40-pound vellum. The reason that I'm using that is because I want the background to show through well, and I also am going to fussy cut this image, and I find I get a better result if I fussy cut thinner papers. So here I have the Earthtone Pepper, and I'm just sprinkling that on, and I'm giving it a light tap just to get off any excess. And then I'm just going to funnel that back in from my coffee filter here. And I just keep using the same coffee filter over and over. Everything shakes out really easily. I have the WOW dual speed heat embossing tool here, and I heated it up on the second speed, and you can see it was like propelling itself on my glass mat because there was no traction there. And once before I started using it, I knocked it back down to the slower speed, which has less heat, because that is going to be better for your vellum. Especially this is a lightweight vellum. So I start by preheating the tool, and then I preheat the embossing powder by heating it from the back and kind of start the melting process. And then I'm going to bring it to the front, and you can see that it's melting really quickly by doing it that way. You know, once you bring it to the front, it's going to melt pretty quickly. But you can see my vellum isn't getting warped. So I really am enjoying this slower speed on this tool. So as a color reference, I'll try and keep my cap up so that you can see what color I'm using. This Earthtone Pepper embossing powder is an opaque marble. So if you look at the bottle, it says OM on it. That means opaque marble. So you can see that the base color is white because if you look at it from the back, you can see that the embossing powder looks white, but on the front it looks brown. So the color is at the top and the base coat is at the bottom in that white. So a note about the Copic coloring. So vellum is a non-porous or at best a semi-porous paper. That means your Copic markers are not going to absorb into your paper. So when you're coloring vellum and you've embossed the front of it, you want to make sure that you do your Copic coloring on the back. So alcohol markers are a solvent, and they can start to dissolve the embossing powder, and that can damage your tips of your markers. So if you color on the back, it eliminates kind of the threat to your markers. Now, I find that because this is a semi-porous paper or non-porous, the ink is just going to collect without absorbing. So you want to try and do your coloring in one coat. You don't want to be scrubbing over the same area. What's going to happen is you're going to get a collection of ink and you're going to end up with these sticky areas. So I try, like you can see some sticky stripes there. I try to just do one coat as much as possible. Now, if you can only do one coat, then that means you're probably not going to be doing a lot of color blending on this. For each element, I try to stick to one color. For the berries, I did use two colors, but I didn't blend out that darker color. I just left just one stroke of it just to add a little bit of definition in between those berries. So what you can see is I'm trying to do just one stroke, and I'm trying to keep the overlapping of my strokes to a minimum, because any of those areas that overlap, you're going to get kind of that darker pool of color where it kind of starts to get sticky. So for the centers of my flowers, I'm just coming in with a darker color just to add a bit of contrast. And then I'm going to fussy cut this out, which is really easy if you have a nice pair of precision scissors. I'll have all of the products listed down below. For coloring on the vellum, you also want to choose a marker that's darker than what you think you might need, because the vellum is going to lighten that color, if you will. So I tended to go with darker colors, and you can see that I tested the colors down on the bottom of the page. So here I have the Simon Says stamp, planked background stamp here, and this has such fine lines on it. I love it. So here I've just taped a scrap piece of cardstock to the back of this just so I would have a handle to hold on to. I end up knocking it off the handle because I don't have it taped down too well. But I have the Angel Eyes teal embossing powder here. And again, this is from the Ferry Man trio. So you can't buy this as an individual color, but the other colors, there's a pink and a green in this set. But all three of the colors are gorgeous. So I highly recommend this trio. And so same thing, I'm just gonna heat this. Because I knocked off my handle, I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it on my glass mat and just heat it from the front. But you can see that even though this is a busy background with the planked design, the lines are so fine that it's not going to be overwhelming when we add this large floral to this background. So I really like this background. I think it has a modern feel to it, but it also goes really well with this botanic theme that we're going to have as well. So really, really nice. So here we have everything fussy cut out, and what I'm going to do here, because my background is teal and my flowers are blue, what I have here is just a BG, I want to say it's a BG 13, it might be the 15 though, and I'm just going to add another coat to the back of these. Now, because that ink didn't absorb from the blue, my marker is actually picking up that ink, and so here you can see kind of those pools of ink there. So that just gives it a little bit more of a blue-green note to it so that it goes with the background. And you can see the dark blue ended up on my tip, so I'm just wiping that off so that it's not contaminated for the next time that I use it. And just adding that little bit of teal to these two flowers is going to help the background be more cohesive with the floral elements. So I've gone ahead and stamped a sentiment, and I'm going to heat emboss that in the Earthtone Pepper. And it really just, it really embosses beautifully. I love this color. It has it's a grayish brownish tone, almost like the E70 markers for the Copic markers, which is my favorite brown neutral color, or the E70s. And this is very similar to that. It's almost like a grayish purplyish brown. So to adhere my vellum, of course you want to hide your adhesive. So I'm just adding Ranger Multimedia Matte Glue just to the centers of the flowers and to a few of those darkest areas of the berries. And I'm just going to press that down. That's the only place that I added glue. I'm going to leave the leaves just kind of free flowing because I'm actually going to take my fingers and just kind of pull those up a little bit and curl them just a bit. Even though the vellum is adhered directly to the paper, if you curl up the leaves, you can get the appearance of a little bit of a dimension. So that is something that I like to do. And so sometimes I'll curl it around a pencil, but because there's embossing powder on it, I'm just going to use my fingers so that I can be really gentle with it rather than curling it around a pencil. All that's left is to trim off the hangover from the back is how I trim it. I do leave the leaf at the top because that's not going to interfere with the card being able to sit on a table or anything like that, and that should fit in the envelope. So I didn't want to trim that little leaf at the top. I think it looks nicer hanging over. And then I added some pretty pink posh confetti to finish off the card. And I love how the lightweight vellum, you're really able to see that delicate background showing through the flowers, and it has a little bit of that stained glass appearance. And I just think these colors go together really well. It's a cheery card. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project for my very first one on the Wow Embossing Powder channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. All of the products will be listed down below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button down below. I'll also have links to the Wow Facebook group as well as the challenge that they run monthly. So be sure to check that out. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you again real soon.